Hello, broadcast students. Mr. Olson here. It's the final week of the school year for this class because we have a number of seniors. So the grades are due in on Friday. So this will be a lighter week. It's a shorter week. We're going to end our unit with one notes day on Kids TV. That's been sent as a separate link. Do the notes on your own pace. And then there'll be an assignment. It's the last slide on the PowerPoint. It's another one of those top 10 mojo countdowns looking at the top 10 annoying kids shows for parents. And then we'll have our final assessment. So I'm going to be posting on Tuesday, probably sometime in the morning, an essay assignment that'll be due in on Friday. It'll be our last kind of project thing of the year. You'll have topics that relate to either news or sports or children's TV. And to kind of help you out with that, I'm going to do a little unit wrap here. We're going to end our broadcast year, and I'm going to kind of go through the notes that you've already done on your own. Again, you're not required to do notes here, but this may help you think about some topic matter for the final assessment essay that will be posted on Tuesday. So to go back through our moments in news, this kind of set the stage for what we have today. In 1960, Kennedy and Nixon, the first ever presidential debate on television. People that heard the debate on radio felt that Nixon was the winner, but people that watched on TV thought it went to JFK. Kennedy was better looking. He took the debate more seriously. He showed up early. He applied makeup. Nixon refused makeup. It made him look like he was, almost kind of hungover or he had a bad head cold. And so this set the stage for how we elect presidents today through television. How do they look on TV? How much TV time do they get? The Vietnam War changed the way that war was perceived by Americans. The World War II had been a, kind of highlight reel footage seen in movie theaters before movies played. The Korean War was in the infancy of television, but the Vietnam War, brought back all these images into people's living rooms, and it kind of changed how Americans felt about this war, especially with, in 1968, the way the Tet Offensive was covered. And so then, of course, we have the Watergate scandal. We talked a bit about that, and of course, we watched back way early in the year the movie All the President's Men, but the Watergate hearings were very historic, and of course, Richard Nixon became the first ever president to resign, and he did it live on TV. TV was there to cover the event. 1980, the arrival of CNN, formed by Ted Turner out of Atlanta. CNN has grown and multiplied now into three different channels, and it's hard to find an airport in the country that doesn't broadcast CNN. Our president, Donald Trump, is not a fan of CNN, and there are those that, of the more conservative nature that think CNN is a, kind of a, a liberal propaganda channel, if you will. I think that depends on your viewpoint, but CNN has evolved from being more of an all-news operation to now kind of like radio news talk, if you will, radio on television where they have all these opinions that take place. Big year in 89, Tiananmen Square in China had their revolt from the students, and then the Chinese tanks rolled in, picture there on the left, and put an end to the revolt and any ideas of open thinking or democracy. And then not long after that, the Berlin Wall came down in Germany. In 1991, we have a Desert Storm. And now, because of the way the Vietnam War was covered, the military and the U.S. government institutes the pool reporter system. This is where the military comes into a tent or a room they've set up as kind of a press area. They give you a brief statement about what's happening, and they really don't let the media get as much out on the front lines as they did during the Vietnam War because the reporting from that war had been so damaging. 1995, O.J. Simpson led police on his wild goose chase. This was news sensation. They even interrupted NBA playoff finals to show the O.J. chase, and then the ensuing murder trial became a spectacle for the American public. In 2000, the election in 2000, an historical night when at first NBC, a bit too early, predicted Al Gore as the winner of Florida. Remember, in our country, we elect the president on the electoral college system, and Florida was going to be the swing state and who was going to win the presidency. And then after NBC backed off, Fox Television, a little while later, did call Florida for Bush. And then Gore watched the count, and he was on his way actually to make a concession speech, refused to concede because the gap was becoming, as NBC stated, too close to call. And then there were recounts, and eventually the Supreme Court of the U.S. stopped the recount, and George W. Bush became president. A historic night in presidential history, presidential race history. September 11th, of course, the attacks in New York City. This became massive news coverage. I think enough is said about that with regards to the way it was covered and how much attention that event brought about. And then, of course, the arrival of the internet. Although you'll see in the bottom here, most Americans still get their news from television. All right, now we'll roll through some sports stuff. There'll be an essay prompt about sports. You might pay attention to this a little bit. In the early days of sports, yes, believe it or not, boxing and bowling were the two big things, and they actually ran in prime time. They showed bowling on weeknights, and it actually got really big ratings. Hard to believe. All right, sports really, I think, took a big kick economically in this country with the arrival of sports into nighttime. This started with the National Football League, with Monday Night Football. When ABC put football on Monday night, people thought they were crazy. They thought this will not earn ratings. Wrong. It got big ratings, and of course now there's Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. There's baseball on. If there were to be sports, obviously that's an issue now with the shelter in place, but if we had sports, there'd be baseball every night of the week. The arrival of ESPN in 1979, when they were first on the air, they didn't have much to show, but now, of course, they have contracts with the NFL, the NBA, all the sports. By the way, if you don't know, ESPN stands for the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. 1993, the arrival of Fox into the big scene. Remember, there'd been just three networks, ABC, CBS, NBC. Fox came along in the 90s and then immediately put itself on the map when it actually came along in the late 80s, but in the 90s it put itself on the map when it snared away the rights for the NFC games, the NFC conference, and they paid $1.58 billion. The ratings fell for 60 Minutes because CBS had football that would lead into 60 Minutes for the East Coast audience. And this now set the stage for The Simpsons to get great ratings. All right, let's look at some ways in which television has influenced sports. These might be important for one of the sports essay topics coming up on Tuesday. World Series games at night. In fact, a lot of sports at night because of television. Wrigley Field in Chicago was forced to construct lights at their stadium in case they ever had a World Series. They eventually did. The TV timeout now exists. We have automatic breaks put in to games so we can get commercials in. Giant video screens in every arena and stadium all across the country. Extra rounds of playoffs. More television money. Of course, now TV revenue is being sorely lost because of the shelter in place. Expansion in all the big leagues. That means more markets with teams, means more television revenue. And now every league and even college has instant replay rules where they can go to the television monitor and maybe change a call that a referee perhaps missed. All right, let's look at the economics of sports. You don't have to write these down. You've done these separately for notes on your own, but have a sense about this perhaps, because look at the dramatic shift in the contracts from 1970 to 1985. The NFL contract times itself by nine times more. And now watch this one, next slide. Current sports TV contracts, the NFL contract is currently worth $20 billion. Major League Baseball, $2.5 billion, and the NBA is worth $800 million. That's the contract they pay to get on. And of course, we've talked about this before. The cost of a Super Bowl ad this past year, $5.6 million. All right, that's your wrap on broadcasting, our final unit. Again, Tuesday, look for the assessment essay, your final little project of the school year. And then seniors, congratulations. Friday's the day to get all that work in, and then you're off to graduation.